Town go in search of the first 3 points of November on Wednesday night when Cardiff City are the visitors to Kenilworth Road. Alongside me to preview what we hope will be a Town win are the Lutonian journalist James Cunliffe and Diaz Ali of the Unchained Minds podcast. Gents, fireworks night the night before, but let's hope the Town saves some fireworks for Wednesday.
Let's hope it goes with a bang then.
Oh. Well, plenty more fireworks, analogies and everything else coming up after this intro.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people, and that's what we care about.
Hello everyone, welcome along to another episode of the Luton Town Supporters Trust podcast, the longest running Luton Town podcast, which as you all know is shortlisted for the Best Football League podcast in this year's Football Content Awards. This season we're sponsored by Solid, providing opportunities, provisions and assistance so our academy can fulfil their potential. As I mentioned before the intro, we are previewing Luton Town v Cardiff City, Wednesday evening, 7:45 kickoff, Kenilworth Road. If you're not going to the game, Sky Sports Plus will show the game for you. So plenty of ways of watching. As we record this right now, tickets are still available. Do check the website to make sure if you want to go. As I said before the intro, I've got Jimbo and I've got Diaz alongside me. Gents, if we did this particular podcast a month ago, this would look the easiest game of November. But a month in football is a long time, and suddenly it looks one of the hardest ones.
It does look one of the hardest ones, but I'm buoyed by the last three home performances. That's got to count for something. You've got to use that to build on. And really, most teams in this division, you're going to have to say, are going to be a very tough challenge. It's just, take your point that they weren't doing so well a little while ago, and they've picked up now. So there's always that. But we were not that soft touch for West Brom, which I thought would be the case when they needed a goal and haven't been scoring that many. They did score, but they didn't get the result. So these little small steps give you a bit of confidence, I think.
I think it's a big one as well, just for the fact that we dropped points against Plymouth. They're down there. We've dropped points against Coventry, they're down there, and Cardiff are sort of around us, so it's like we need points from somewhere, especially from the teams around us.
Yeah, we do. We just need points, don't we? To be quite honest, we'll take them from wherever we can get them. But in a way, though, you're absolutely right, because we win this game, we go above them in the table. You know, the more teams that we can be above going into that international break, the better things are going to look. And of course, this international break, from the time that we kick off against Cardiff, it's only 4 days away. We've got that silly trip to Middlesbrough in between. But yeah, if we can win this game, we'll go to Middlesbrough off the back of 4 points from 2 games. It wouldn't be a free hit because we're not in a position whereby we can give anything a free hit. But we're in a position where if we do lose an away game at Middlesbrough, which we'll be favourites to do with the bookmakers, not necessarily Luton fans, 4 points from a week, based on the week that just gone, would be an acceptable result. So we kind of give ourselves some wiggle room if we can win this game, not just in terms of an extra space between us and the bottom 3 for those that are scared that the trapdoor's still lurking, but, things would look a whole lot more positive going into a really tough game on Saturday.
Yeah, but that's what wins will do for you, isn't it? I'm not in the bracket of some people that think this is a must-win game, but it would be mighty handy to get Luton away from where they currently are. Like you say, a lot of people fearing that it would be a relegation battle. I don't see it if they can put performances like they have done at home at Kenilworth Road the last 3 times. I don't see that would be the case. But then results still speak for themselves at the moment, so I can't say with certainty to any degree that people will want to believe me at the moment, because some will be quite worried about where they are in the table. But yeah, you beat the teams around you in that position. That's the platform to move on. And who knows? You need to see what Coventry have done in the last 2 results and where they are.
I mean, I always say it. 2-game league this. We beat Cardiff, we beat Middlesbrough. We're going to be somewhere in the top half. In fact, having started the week in the bottom 3, it's absolutely bonkers how this league goes. Hard to judge Cardiff though, Diaz, because first sort of 6 games, they were stinking the division out. Then they sacked their manager, which was probably understandable. We kind of got the impression that was always going to happen. It was just a case of when. And since he's gone, they're 6 unbeaten. And all of a sudden, they're looking like, results-wise, one of the better teams in the league. They've just turned around a 1-0 deficit late on to beat Norwich 2-1. And there's nothing more satisfying than coming from behind and winning late on in a game to give you confidence. So they're a dangerous proposition here.
Yeah, it's 2 teams Luton have sort of picked up form, hopefully, off that West Brom game. But Cardiff, six games without a loss is I don't think you can overlook it or underlook it. Like it's a big thing to do, especially in the Championship. So they are going to be a hard game. I think the thing we've got on our side is that it's at home. But it's not going to be an easy game, especially on paper and especially with the bounce that they're having at the minute.
Yeah, I would agree with that. If we got West Brom at the right time, and we did get them at the right time, as it turned out, probably getting Cardiff at the wrong time, not least because they've worked out Ethan Horvath's crap and they've put him on the bench.
You hate Ethan Horvath, don't you?
We would still be at Wembley now if Dabo hadn't missed that penalty, because no bugger was saving a penalty that day. We would still be there.
Listen, we've got Kaminsky now. It doesn't matter. Much better. And Kaminsky should feel hard done by this season. He should have a lot more clean sheets than he currently has because of some pretty terrible mistakes. And I mean, Friday was a mistake as well. So it's unfortunate for him. But yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of why he's not playing for Cardiff, but you can see from their form and their results that
he's the reason.
No, I didn't say that, Ethan. If you're watching, I didn't say it. No,
trying to get the man in trouble.
No, nothing to do with the goalkeeper. What I was going to say was far more sensible. It's just that you cannot look at Cardiff and say that they're going to be an easy touch now. But Luton need to start asserting their dominance now, not just in the performances, which we have had, but in the results. So if they can marry the two, then it's going to be a huge boost for this middle part of the season, I think. And it is a good chance to do that. Nobody's going to like coming to Kenilworth Road at the best of times. When you're playing like that and you've put West Brom under the cosh for as much of that game on Friday as we did, then they're going to have a lot to think of in as much as Luton are going to have a lot to think of them.
Yeah, that is true. Usually would pick out threats or statistics or something that stands out with regards to Cardiff. It's kind of hard because a lot of their statistics over the course of the season are going to be either inflated or deflated by those first 6 games where they were terrible. They're clearly a different side now, 6 games unbeaten. The one thing you would say, though, 4 of those 6, the 4 games that they've won in that 6 have all been in Cardiff. The 2 games that they've not won, they've drawn, but both away. So it does seem like they're riding a new manager bounce, albeit not a permanent new manager. Got 3 days to employ Nathan, lads. Come on, you can still do it. But it's a new manager bounce, but also they're riding their home factor. It doesn't look like it's as convincing away from home, and hopefully that's the case Wednesday night. Yeah,
and with the 2 draws, you probably think they're going to come to Kenilworth Road and maybe do what West Brom done and sit back. So with with Graham Jones actually implementing Baptiste and Walsh.
Rob Edwards.
Look, I'm getting all the Joneses mixed up.
We are going back in time on this one.
I'm glad I got a correction there. With Rob Edwards bringing in Baptiste and Walsh to calm that game down. Maybe he starts with one of them to sort of get a foothold of the game from the start this week.
We'll come on to the team in a minute because we've actually got to discuss potential team selections for once in our life. The one thing I would say on Cardiff, 7th worst for XG this season, 7th worst for XG against. So basically they're the 7th worst team of attacking and they're the 7th worst team of defending. So that kind of tells you that they're somewhere in the bottom 7 of the table, and the league table would tell you that anyway. This guy's been in charge long enough that the statistics aren't probably as distorted as they would have been at the start of the season. So I think they're an accurate reflection. So I think what Diaz has just said there, that they're probably going to come here more than happy to take a point. That's got to be the kind of mindset that we have about that. So the onus on Wednesday night is very much on Luton to go and play our football, get in front of them. First goal will be key because, every team in this league can time waste when they're in front. Get in front. And let's see what they're made of, because they haven't really been behind a lot under the temporary manager. Okay, they were behind to Norwich, who, from what I could see of that game, kind of fell on their backside a bit towards the end. And even then, Norwich were lucky to be in front. I don't know if you saw the goal that Sainz scored, but it's an absolute worldie. Whoever was in goal weren't going to be saving that. But if we can get ourselves in front and build a little bit of confidence and put them under real pressure, we'll find out if they've turned a corner or if they're still the same side that have just been riding the crest of a wave.
Yeah, it's a turn the corner derby, isn't it? Really, because we thought that had
Klaxon
happened.
alert.
We thought that had happened after the Watford and Sunderland ones, and we're sort of back, not necessarily back to square one because it was a good performance against West Brom, but with the understanding that 3-game week really took its toll once we got to the third game. Now this, albeit, is the second game of a 3-game week, so you can still go out there and press and be aggressive. And it's not for this podcast, but for the next one. But there may be a case if the players that came back can stay fit, if there's the option to do that this time in the 3-game week. So there's some learning to have there, because we didn't have change of personnel apart from Nakamba, who we all thought crying out for at Coventry, if not from the start, from half time. So this one, I think that you can still go out there and play the way that Luton have played in the last 3 games at Kenilworth Road and go at them. And ideally, yes, the requirement here is to get the first goal and then to keep at them and see what can come of it. Because I think that in the way that I thought West Brom probably would do, that they would happily take a goal and sit on that all day long. And I don't want to see that type of football, because it feels a bit desperate sometimes. So I want to see that the dominance in play is matched by the result this time.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have some incidents in the first half as well, wouldn't it? Unlike on Friday night, which was not really forthcoming in that regard. We have won our last 3 against Cardiff. That's a positive. There were a time that if you were a Luton fan playing against Cardiff, you're like, no point in bothering because we can't win this game.
Yeah.
Back them and Swansea, we couldn't beat them for love nor money. Now we seem to have the kind of edge on them, so that's a positive. Obviously, we haven't played them for a couple of seasons because we were in the Premier League last season. They did spend big in the summer, though. Cardiff, they signed Anwar El Ghazi, not necessarily big money in terms of transfer fees, but certainly these guys are on decent wages. El Ghazi, Chris Willock from QPR has always looked a good player when we played against him. He's in their side. Callum Robinson was already there, seems to be scoring more goals under this guy. I don't know if he was phased out under the old guy. They've got Callum Chambers at the back, who we've been mentioned about 2 or 3 times when we've been looking at centre halves. He's gone there, he used to play for Arsenal. So they're a team that when you look through their 1 to 11, they've got recognised players. So they were probably heavily underachieving, hence why they booted the manager out. It's just whether they're getting back to where they should be, or, as I say, just riding that new manager bounce. We'll probably only really know 7:45 on Wednesday night.
I think it's a game where we have to take matters into our own hands. We can't rely on what Cardiff are going to turn up. We need to be what Luton are going to turn up, and we need to turn up in a big way. I mean, if I was an opposition manager and I was coming to Luton Town, I would sit back and say, let them play. That's what I would personally do. I would say, let's sit back, let them play, let them make their own mistakes, and then go forward and get a goal and sort of puncture the balloon with the fans and the crowd. And so I think that's probably what they're going to try and do, going off of their form and the players they have. But I think they could maybe be a bit better at West Brom on the attack with some of the players you just named and the form they're actually coming in with. So hopefully we can get a good start from Luton.
That would mean that the Town need to be at it defensively. So let's bring this back to the Town, because we've wanted this discussion about defenders and who should we play for a while now. Well, we've got 2 back. and we've got 2 just returning from suspension now from Friday night. So all of a sudden, we've got some selection issues. I don't think we've got a selection issue at left wing back. I think Alfie Doughty walks straight back into there. I don't think there's any problems with that. Right wing back, though, Hashi's just had a really good game against West Brom. But if he plays there, Victor Moses can't play there. Victor Moses kind of forgotten about on Friday night, really, because he was the fall guy for the sort of control that we wanted in the second half through no fault of his own. He was kind of playing out of position anyway, to be fair to Victor. And Rob alluded to the fact that he's played 90 for the first time in a long time, so he wanted to give him a rest anyway, so it made perfect sense. Where do we go right wing back wise, though? Are you a Hashi or are you Victor Moses?
I think probably because of the amount of work that Victor Moses has had to get through and not necessarily in his own normal position, so he's been more up and down the pitch than he probably would have liked to have been. And also, he played top flight football for most of his career. He's not used to the relentlessness of the Championship. So I think just to give him the rest, and I'm not privy to any of the sort of running stats to whether he's in the red zone, as they call it these days, but I would say like this is the opportunity, given how well Hashi played, and we want to see him more in the position that he was signed for. I'd keep him there.
But the flip side of that is Victor's likely to give you more going forward in a home game ahead of an away game, where Hashi's likely to give you more defensive.
Yeah. I would go Hashi personally. I would prefer to see Moses come off the bench because I think he'd make a bit more of a better impact coming off the bench. And just like as we spoke about with Cardiff's form, I wouldn't take too much risk going forward. I'd want to be a bit more solid at the back, especially if Doughty's coming back in on the other side. If you want to get forward, let's just go down Doughty's side. Let Hashi do the defending.
Yeah, that sounds fair enough to me. I think we're going to stick with the back 5, aren't we? There's, if he was playing a back 5 with, walking wounded on Friday, he's going to stick to a back 5 now. So the question therefore, the immediate question, the obvious question is, does Tom Holmes walk back into that back 3?
I would say yes, for the same argument that I put forward for leaving Victor out, because I don't want to see Tedden or Bell break down again in any way. They've just put themselves through nearly 100 minutes of football. Bell more than Tedden, because Tedden, we were told, was closer to a return, but we were surprised to see Bell back, and we don't want his hamstring to ping again.
I thought Tedden's had on Friday night. He was trying his hardest to come off, wasn't he, the boy? He was like waving, he was like gesturing, and Rob's like, no.
Cramp on it.
It's not happening. You're staying on, son.
So I would say yes, I would like to see Tom Holmes come back in, because other than the fact that he got him sent off, which was a bit silly, but I mean, he referenced that he was knackered anyway, getting the run around against Coventry, but he had, in the 3 performances that he'd had before, well, even up to that, I'm including those 3 in that performance, he played really well. And it's only the fact that he's been suspended for that one game where I think it would be even a conversation that he would not be in the side. Now with those players back, this is the conversation we wanted to have as to who plays. But I think it's a game too early, maybe 2 games too early. I'd want to see those 2 players, Bell and Mengi, eased back in a bit more. They were thrust into it because they had to be against West Brom, but the option's there now. So I think I'd rather see Tom Holmes come back, give him a rest.
Holmes back in for you?
Yeah, do you think Edwards will, knowing there's an international break coming up, risk him a little bit more than he would if there wasn't? As the break's coming up, I don't know. I mean, I don't see him leave if Tendon's fit. I don't see him leaving him out. I think he really likes him. I think he always looks injured, Mengi. Did you not even think in the Premier League he always looked like he would do something and you'd be like, his knee's gone here, and he would then be there the next game and the next game and the next game. He's like a Chevy Silverado. The guy just keeps trucking. I feel like if he's fit, I think he would want to start him. Personally, if he's fit, I would start him. I wouldn't want to change the back 4 if they're all fit and they're all feeling good. But if you have to manage it with the games coming up, then you'd be, like you said, for balance reasons, you'd be better off bringing Holmes in and keeping Bell there, because I think you'd be better balanced than having Holmes and Mengi.
You could go probably more full throttle for this game because it's the second of the three and it's the third one where you want to switch it around. So I'd have no problem if he did want to keep it the same because the control was really quite useful against West Brom. I'd just say I'd want Holmes to come back in because I don't think he did anything wrong in his performance. It was only one silly shirt pull when Richard Madley's your referee. I mean, you could do it. You look at him the wrong way and he'll book you. So there's nothing on Holmes there in the three performances he's had. There's nothing on Holmes that suggests to me that he's done anything wrong. In fact, we were talking him up. Everybody was really like, wow, this guy can play, when we thought that he would be further down the pecking order, and he's suddenly got himself right up there. So either or, I wouldn't be surprised, but I will stick my neck out and say Holmes.
Yeah, no, I actually think he'll play Mengi as well, because the only way you get fit is by playing. You just got, if he gets injured, he gets injured, right? It's just how it is. But if he sits on the sideline, he ain't going to get fit. So you're in a catch-22 situation, aren't you? What I would say is if he starts with Mengi and we get into that situation that we got into on Friday where Mengi's feeling something, or, you know, he's gesturing to the sidelines, I'm done. At that point, don't push him then. Make the switch. And if you've got Holmes on the bench, then you could bring Holmes onto the side. Where I would bring Holmes in, it steps that extra man in midfield that we saw against Sunderland and boxes them in, doesn't it? And Amari can do that, but it's different when Amari does. Amari does it more with the ball. Holmes does it more without the ball. It's hard to kind of quantify it, but maybe if we've got three ball players in the middle of the park, and we'll come on to midfield in a minute, maybe we don't need Holmes to step into midfield anyway, in which case Mengi would be fine. I'm very much of a Mengi and Bell don't both do 180 minutes Wednesday, Saturday, though. That's the thing. So where Holmes features, whether it's Wednesday or Saturday, if he doesn't feature Wednesday, he definitely features Saturday and vice versa, sort of thing.
What was the injury? Mengi's injury, was it a hamstring injury?
He's been suffering with a knee problem.
Knee. So it's the same thing as last season when he was always the hamstring. So it was Bell who had the hamstring.
Yeah, Bell.
I wouldn't risk the hamstring as much if he's just come back from it. Just because if it pops again, it is popping again, and it's going to be another. A hamstring's not really one of them things where it's like a knee might swell up and it might be like it's a bit too painful today, but in a few weeks, a hamstring's like it's 4 weeks minimum to 6 weeks. You're not coming back until then, especially with today's day and age, with how serious they take the fitness of the players. So that I would much rather not risk a hamstring if he is feeling it. But you never know how they're feeling, and I think. But then again, in the same breath, I wouldn't want to bring him on when he's kind of cold, been sitting there for 60 minutes and had a hamstring problem, and then go and make a few sprints now because the game's in the thick of it. I'd rather start him and bring him off after 60 minutes and let him build into the game instead of just chucking him on and letting him do sprints.
So really, we're none the wiser with regards to the back three.
We've gone backwards.
We've brought Holmes in, now we've gone back to Friday's back three. We don't know. But one thing we do know is it's going to be bloody good to have an actual centre-half on that bench on Wednesday, assuming no one's got injured in the intervening few days, which is a brave risk to take with regards to us at the moment. Whether Holmes starts or whether he's just on the bench, he's a mighty good option. Whichever one comes about, and that's good. And obviously having Alfie back, that's going to sort out all the set plays and everything else. Let's move into the midfield then, because that was a big thing on Friday night. Obviously, the game changed when the midfield changed. But I don't kind of get the visions that Rob's going to change the midfield here. I think he's going to go in with the same dynamic in midfield, and then if the game's not working, he'll change it again like he did on Friday night. I don't get the impression he's going to start with Shandon Baptiste yet.
So the same start that started against the Baggies?
Yeah, Krause, Clark, Chong.
Yeah, I think that probably would make sense because Krause didn't complete the full game, and Baptiste has been out for so long. Although he's been the one for the last 3 or 4 weeks that's been supposedly the closest to coming back, and it's just never quite happened. So maybe they've managed it in that way. But yeah, I mean, there wasn't much of a problem with the midfield there. It was just that West Brom scored and needed something else that he came on. So I think that's good. Again, we've got this situation where we've got the options, and that's pretty unusual. I take most people's point that they wanted to see Krause stay on and maybe Clark come off in that West Brom game. I think that now becomes more crucial because Jordan Clark has played all of the minutes all the time, and whether that load becomes too much for him, particularly in this 3-game week, and we saw it against Coventry, that Clark in particular suffered in that game. We've spoken about it before. If Luton are on top, Clark's good to have on your side, but if you're up against it, not. I don't necessarily see that would be the case in this game. I think Luton could still start on the front foot and dominate the game. So that to me says that it doesn't change that midfield 3.
Yeah, no, I don't think it changes at the start. Do you see it changing at the start?
No, I don't. I think balance-wise, after seeing Baptiste and Walsh on, I'm like, would I want one of them in there with Krause and Chong? Like Chong and Clark, for me, they're both not great defensively. So I'm sort of like, and Krause he's a very number 8, up and down, box to box. So it's sort of, you miss that like Nakamba, someone who's just going to sit in front of the back 4 and just sweep it up. So for balance-wise, I'd like to say one of them would start. But then I don't think they played bad enough for all 3 of them not to start. So I wouldn't have an issue with them 3 starting. But that would reinforce to me a bit more to keep Hashioka right wing back as well, just to strengthen it up a little bit and not go too gun ho.
Yeah, no, that is fair enough. I mean, Nakamba's the other one, isn't it? We've been told that he can't do 90 minutes all the time. Well, he isn't doing any minutes at the minute, is he? But surely at some point in this week he's going to do some of them, because Baptiste is only coming back as well. Like you just mentioned, Clark plays every minute. You know, surely he's going to be running to the ground. Chong's been carrying an injury, hasn't he? You know, he's been missing games or threatening to miss games. Obviously, he had that issue after Plymouth, where he got pole axed and everything. You kind of get the impression that it's a hard ask for Chong and Clark to play 2 more 90 minutes. But at the same time, they're the 2 front midfielders, aren't they? And really, the midfielders we've got to come into the game are the back midfielder, aren't they? And that's kind of where we're at. I suppose you could always swap Clark for Moses if you're not starting Moses. That would be, particularly if you're going 4-4-2 like we did on Friday, rather than have Clark on the right wing, you could have Moses in front of Hashioka, and that would make more sense. That's why Krause went off on Friday, not Clark, because Clark, although it was a very narrow midfield 4, Clark was on the right side of the 4, whereas Krause, like Diaz has just said, he's like, his heat map is literally a line straight down the middle of the pitch, isn't it?
Yeah. It is. Everybody loves the way he's been playing, and he was gutted. He was furious when they went.
I mean, that seat took an absolute pounding, didn't it?
Yeah.
When he got taken off. I don't know what he hit it with, but I heard it from where I was in the Kenilworth end. And yeah, no, fair play to him.
I don't want to get too excited about loan players, like we've done that before, haven't we? But he could be one of those, wouldn't he? That people will love him so much, and he gets it, and he's up for the fight, and he's box to box, and he plays some wonderful balls. There was one through to Elijah on Friday, didn't quite get there, but it got everyone off their seats because they thought it would. And if he can do one of those every game, then that's going to be good for Luton's attacking.
Reminded me so much of the goal at Coventry, except the ball didn't get to him this time. Those two are forming a nice little... I mean, to be honest, if you're a striker and the ball's at Krause's feet and you're standing still, you need a rocket up your backside, don't you? And I'm not talking the ones that are going off on Tuesday night. You know, you do, don't you? Because the geezer has got some serious passing, and he fizzes that pass in. None of this tentative behind you nonsense. Yeah. Go and run onto that and hit it. It's a striker's dream, Krause. I think that's also why people were disappointed that he went off on Friday. But again, it was a formation thing rather than a personnel thing. why Kraus went off on Friday. And maybe Kraus didn't realise that at the time. Maybe that's why he was belting the shit out of that chair. He'd have probably been a bit more mellow had he realised that we were changing formation. It's great to have. We could literally, off the bench, change the entire midfield.
Yeah.
We haven't had these midfield options for ever and a day. And if you look on Friday, Zach Nelson wasn't even on the bench.
Yeah.
I think these are good problems for Rob with the free game week. I think if he was thinking about benching players and not having to make an excuse for it, it's a good time to do it, because you sort of can be like, oh, I just want to manage your minutes and he hasn't played and I need you. So for him, if he was going to change people he wasn't sure about and didn't want to give a reason, it is a better time to do it now. But Zach Nelson, I want to see him nurtured into the team. Now, I don't want it like at the start of the season being chucked in against Burnley and stuff like this. I don't want to see that with him. I want to see him sort of slowly brought in. But this is where not having an under 21s sort of kills us a little bit, and we've let a lot of it's because it's a conversation for a different day, but we've let a lot of talent go just because they can't make the transition from being an 18-year-old to go straight into that type of football.
Yeah. Obviously, with all these options, Zach's just going to have to bide his time, isn't he? I mean, that's just how it is. That's football. We've brought these players in. We haven't brought them in to sit on the bench. They're going to get their time. They'll get their time ahead of him. And when we saw on Friday night why that's the case, I think we can all agree pretty much that the front two's going to be the front two, Eli and Carlton. They're scoring. There's no real reason to take them out. Eli got a rest on Friday night, so he's not going to go all 3 games in a row. He hasn't done it anyway, has he? Brown usually comes on for one of the 2. Maybe this time Brown comes on for Morris to give Morris a break ahead of the Middlesbrough game.
I don't know. I think Morris is in a really good vein of form.
Yeah, but
he's one of the players.
You want him to be at Middlesbrough, don't you? That's the thing. So
you
if
do.
he needs to have half an hour off somewhere along the line, I mean, if we're in front, it's an obvious, it's a moot point, isn't it?
You mean so he'll start, but take him off?
Yeah,
yeah.
Where
yeah.
he
I'd be
took
comfortable
Elijah
with that.
off on Friday, he'll take Morris off this time around, like he did against Watford. He took Morris off with 25 to go. Or whatever.
I think he'll probably just play the hand that's hot. If Elijah's sort of not getting into the game and Morris is the one where you're like, yeah, he looks like something could happen here, you're keeping him on, isn't you? Whether I like you we need to win this game more so than think about the next game, and I'd hope he sort of don't, especially if it's a tight game. But I don't think he would do stuff like that. I think he'd play the hand that's hot. If Elijah's playing really well, he'd keep Elijah on and bring Brown on. But yeah, them two, so basically all the same team really, bar Doughty. Moses.
Yeah. All this all this selection mumbo jumbo, and we've made one change which is an automatic one. So
but we're tying ourselves up in knots because there's this 3-game week
and
the rested.
Yeah.
But I think that's to be expected and understandable considering how threadbare we've been.
I think the one thing that we can say here is whoever starts this game, use your 5 subs this time. Whatever the game situation is, if you need to bring more attackers on and take the attacking midfielders off, do that. You've got attacking midfielders on that. You can push Pelly forward. You can push Kraus forward and bring Walsh on behind him or Nakamba on behind him. You've got options in midfield. Use the 5 subs in this game because there's no turnaround time. By the time they finish, it's literally go to sleep, go to Middlesbrough. That's basically it. They'll do a recovery session on Thursday, bit of set piece, and look at the opposition on Friday, and then it's on the coach or however they're getting up there, and off you pop. There's no turnaround. Whereas at least here we've got 24 hours on Cardiff. They played Wednesday afternoon. We play Friday night. So use the 5 subs. That's the big learning from this one. And the fact that we've got all these options, you can't come out with that silly line that you come out with against Sunderland. Or I looked behind me and I didn't really see many options to change it. Got plenty of options to change it this time around. So we can use those 5 subs, and that's good. How do we hurt this lot? Well, put some crosses in the box. That's going to be big. That's obviously our main mode. They're not. Back in the day, Cardiff, like under Neil Warnock, they were seen as like this big side that headed everything away. I don't get that impression of them now. Having had a foreign manager at the start of the season, there's been a lot more technical play brought to them. I mean, he's not fit at the minute, but Aaron Ramsey's one of their players, isn't he? You wouldn't put him in a direct side, for example. So if we can get some crosses in, good quality crosses, via Alfie largely, because Hashi's ones were making me duck in the Kenilworth end for large parts on Friday night. Has to be said, Hashi, that way, son, not my way. He's very much following the rules of Kabore here, isn't he? Finally gets into the position that he wants, sends loads of crosses over into the Kenilworth end. Eventually, Kabore got them where he wanted them, so hopefully Hashi follows that particular path. But yeah, get the ball out to Doughty, get the ball in the box, attack them, and I get the feeling we're going to have a lot of joy.
Is he not liking Joe Taylor, Rob Edwards? He's not being used nowhere near as much as I thought he would be. Like, if he's like 1, 2, he's like the 4th, maybe 5th choice if you're counting Cauley Woodrow as a striker. He's gone like is he not feeling him at all?
That's a right can of worms you've just opened there, my friend. He's not. One of the reasons why he's not is because generally teams defend so deep against us that all Taylor has is the pace off the shoulder. If we keep on getting asked, why does he prefer Woodrow over Taylor? Woodrow can hold the ball up. It's just as simple as that, really. And when he makes those subs, he wants people to hold the ball up. It'll be interesting to see what happens with Taylor when
I can see him going somewhere and really doing well.
Yeah,
and I think we'll look back and be like, fuck, like what we've let him go. But he doesn't. If he doesn't suit the system, he doesn't suit the system.
That's
right?
exactly it. I mean, ultimately, he's got 2 strikers who've scored in the Premier League.
Yeah.
Versus a geezer who's scored in League One at the moment.
I think it's virtually guaranteed that will happen. He'll go somewhere else and rip it up. We know it will because he's a goal scorer, but it's not. It doesn't fit the side that the play.
Maybe I'd like to see him loaned though, and not sold. Like if they were going to do it in January, maybe loan him in the Championship and see if he has got that Championship sort of style. Because you think it worked with don't say I'm forgetting his name. I know the comments will be going Cornick, that's it. I haven't heard the name in ages as well, but Cornick, he played very much like that, off the shoulder through the gaps, and I think it worked really well with Adebayo.
Well, I would imagine he did, and when he played like that, but Luton they've countered a lot more, don't they? Played a lot more on the counter and
there was no Morris.
So I think that is probably the case. I mean, people forget as well that Joe Taylor was on his way in summer. He was so close, and it didn't happen, and he's here. So he was probably never in the thinking anyway. But there is that issue of how he plays and how Luton play probably doesn't quite work there. But he every week we get this, don't we? Like, why isn't Joe Taylor playing? Kev did a brilliant analysis of it that goes deeper. I forget which podcast it was, but we should find out so we can just say it in every single one.
Yeah.
Go and listen to what Kev said, which is very reasonable, very analytical. But for some reason now, if the minute something doesn't quite go right or you need something else, there's this growing, with virtually no evidence to prove it in the Championship, there's this growing sense among people that he's the smoking gun that will change things, and it hasn't so far. And even if you say, well, he's had minutes, they'll go, well, he hasn't had enough minutes, but he did have a sitter and he missed it. So
I do think the calls will quieten down now that both Eli and Morris are scoring, because they are clearly your front two. I don't think anyone has any issues with Jacob Brown being the next cab off the rank, because, you know, he's a much more all-round package. The criticism is that Woodrow keeps coming on ahead of Taylor. But as I say, at the times where Woodrow comes on, Woodrow's coming on to provide ammunition for people, whereas Taylor is the guy who needs the ammunition.
And don't forget as well, not maybe in the last couple of appearances for Woodrow, but at a time when it was so threadbare, he was actually coming on in midfield to play, central midfield.
Yeah, well, that's it. And also the other thing, Woodrow has played Premier League football. He has had a career in the Premier League, England under-21s. His pedigree, whilst he might not show the very best of him in 5-minute cameos like no one would, Woodrow's pedigree is up here for a long period of time, whereas Taylor's is rising and has got to get to that level before Rob trusts him. That's just the way it is. Listen, one of them will get injured at some point. Every Luton player gets injured, and then Taylor will be further up the pecking order, and we will see. Or, like Diaz says, in January he'll go and we'll replace him. That's just the way the football system works. the other way that I like the idea of getting at this Cardiff side is I just get the feeling that midfield spot in front of a defence that's leaky at any stage of a season, obviously doesn't get great protection. So if we can get Chong on the ball running, I really feel this is a game that Chong can have his way.
I think it would be good to see how he reacts as well, coming off that good performance. Now, if he comes in, gets another goal, we might be looking at one of our better players for the next 5-6 games coming up. So hopefully, to be fair, I'm excited to see how Chong performs. To be fair, this week, I think this could be the turning point for him in his Luton career, especially goals wise.
Because if they are physical, and we're not sure if they are or not, but if they are physical, they're the kind of games that Chong doesn't really give of his best, isn't it? You know, the perception is he's too lightweight, he's moved off the ball too easily. But if he can show that in this game, and they are physical, well, my word, happy days.
I think that's somewhat unfair, actually, because I
like being unfair.
I think he still gets on the ball a lot, but he'll get hacked down, and maybe he doesn't get everything that it's deserving for him. But you know, obviously he won the penalty the other day because he drove at the defender and got tripped. So yeah, I take your point that he doesn't. Maybe it's a question that he doesn't have the impact because he's not allowed to. He's kicked over more often. But then it's an option for set pieces, and if Doughty's on the pitch, then that's always a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's fair, as long as we've got a referee with eyes. And who knows, might even avoid a game of basketball in the Kenilworth penalty box this time as well. I won't hold my breath on that one. That is pretty much it for this episode of the podcast, but we're not going to go without score predictions because I have closed the gap to 7-6 with James. We're all going to do our score predictions for this one. Jimbo, I took first dibs against West Brom. I'll give the public what they want. I'll allow you first dibs this time. You can nick my score if you want to. What's it going to be?
I fancy Luton to win this one and take the dominance that they've been showing in the performances and actually get the goals this time. Not that many though, so I'm going to go for 2-1.
2-1 for Jimbo. Diaz, how does Luton v Cardiff finish?
I was going to go 2-1. I was going to go passive. Because Jim's gone it, I'll go 3-1. I don't see us scoring 3 goals, but I'll go 3-1.
Well, they're a hospitable bunch. They might stick one in for us, or if Horvath plays, 3 years.
Horvath plays, I'll change it. 6-1.
Yeah. Can I give with and without Horvath score predictions, please? He's not going to play. They're not that daft. Luton do still win the game, though. I am really confident that Luton win this game. 2-0 Luton.
Oh, a shout out. Yeah, well, now the proper defence is back, Kev. You might be on for it there, yeah.
Well, fingers crossed we can get that clean sheet. We can build on this, win this game. We do go up the table, whatever the other results are. There's so many teams within 3 points of us. They're not all going to win or get points. And of course, we'll know where we stand because most of them play on Tuesday night as well, whereas we play on the Wednesday. So, yeah, big night Wednesday, this one. Not must win or any of that gobblers, but we can really elevate our platform a lot higher with a win here. We know Saturday's going to be tough, and then that first week after the international break, that looks tough. That does. So if we can go into that with a win here, a solid win, if it's spectacular, happy days. If the performance comes on top of it, fantastic. If it's an ugly win, that's fine. Let's just win the game of football. Let's build the stepping stones, and let's go forward. And let's use 5 subs. Because they're giving us 5 subs, so let's use them and let's be in a good place to go to Middlesbrough on Saturday afternoon. I'm sure we will be. That's pretty much it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks to everyone for getting your comments into us. We read them all. We try to act on them all. Not much time to get your score predictions in for this one. I'm afraid we'll try to give you as long as possible. Usually we would give you something from Rob from his press conference, but press conference is too close to the game, so we'll save that for after the game and see what he has to say, hopefully after a Luton Town win. do keep subscribing. We are closing in on 2,000 YouTube subscribers. We would absolutely love to get there by Christmas, but more importantly, so that you don't miss out when any of our episodes drop, and they are coming thick and fast at you this week. Obviously, we've got a Wednesday game, we've got a Saturday game, and straight after the international break, we've got Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday again. So they're going to be coming thick and fast through November, and we will try and get that Power Court deep dive out to you during the international break as well. So if you do subscribe, you will find out exactly when every single episode drops. Please like and rate the podcast. It really does help us. All of the help that we can get is a huge benefit to us, and well, hopefully it all contributes towards us getting that nice shiny glass trophy on November the 21st.
Absolutely, that would be nice. Check out Diaz's podcast as well, Unchained Minds, very good. And it used to be the Curious Fijian podcast, if any of you watched that, which was always good, if you liked your combat sport, so that was good.
That is it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks very much to the Barber Club and the Lower Level in Luton for hosting our studio. We really appreciate your support, guys, particularly as we're in here pretty much every day this week. To Sean Grant and the Wolfgang for our intro music, and to Ed Smith Creative for all the designs, even, that you see on set. Diaz, has been absolutely fantastic having you this week. Do come in and see us again.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you for having me, boys.
You're more than welcome. And of course, if we beat Cardiff, you'll be a regular on this episode, on this, right? That's absolutely...
Good luck, Sean.
Absolutely dead cert, that is. From Jimbo, from Diaz, from myself, if you've got a ticket on Wednesday night in the home end, be loud and proud, get behind the boys. They're going to tire again as this week goes on. So the more energy we can give them from the stands, the better we can all be together as one. So from the three of us, until next time, which will be a review of the Cardiff game, come on, you Hatters.
For me, it's the people and the spirit of the people as well.
I love this town. I love this town. I love this town. You know what I love about this town is actually you. Everyone in it has got this massive soul.
We're Luton people.